The train is predictably late, but even better, we are informed that it's not actually stopping at Allahabad. Oh, that's just great. So do we jump and roll at the station? No. Worse, it isn't even going to Allahabad Junction, and we don't know where it is going. It may be another station in the city, or another city, or Timbuktu for all we know. Our train comes to a halt. At a halt, we follow the other passengers up the platform. They dissipate into the surrounding streets or waiting cars, leaving the tourists standing and wondering what to do next. There are no rickshaws or taxis, no drivers vying for our business, no business card waving hotel touts. There is none of the tedious hassle we have come to expect at rail stations, and right now would welcome. What we do know is rumour from various sources. The mailer is 7 kilometres away, but in which direction? A taxi, if you can find one, should cost no more than 150 rupees. We fragment into small groups and try to find out where we are and how to get to Allahabad or the Kumbh. Someone manages to call in transport, but only for themselves, as it turned out. Yeah, thanks guys. But the word is out and a few more vehicles roll up. They all ask for ridiculous money, but options are thin on the ground. People are bidding and outbidding each other for the available transport. A short time ago, we were all in the same boat, but now we are all in our small individual boats and clubbing our former shipmates back into the water should they try to board. Tragical Mystery Tour by Phil Wingfield. In 2013, my good friend Keith Harris and I visited the Kumbh Mela for the second time. In 2007, we stayed in Allahabad and trekked miles to the festival grounds. In 2013, we elected to stay at a camp in the Mela grounds. It was a lot more expensive, and even within the Mela grounds, it's still a trek to the action. However, the camp looked great. Swiss cottage tents on a lush verdant lawn, complete with awning under which we could sit and have afternoon tea. We'd be far too busy for that, of course, but nice to have it as an option. We booked this through an Indian travel company. We also had them book the train to Allahabad from Varanasi and out again to Bikaner 4 days later, but it didn't work out as well as we'd hoped. This particular episode was a slow burner, starting with my own brand of incompetence, progressing through Indian Railways' unthinking snap changes to services, and finally the company and their massive propensity for lying, cheating and any other reprehensible quality it was possible to be adept at. The travel company in question will be referred to simply as the company, just in case, as amazingly they think they did nothing wrong. If you want the full impression of my thoughts on the company, every time I say the company, you in your head say that thieving bunch of, and then insert the most vile, depraved and preferably interspecies sexual act you can think of, followed by the single worst word for lady bits written as a verb, the slang for illegitimate and intercourse, and finally a simple word for swine. Yes, that should do it. Varanasi, February the 8th, 2013. Our train to Allahabad leaves Varanasi at around 1:30 this afternoon. As we pack at leisure, I fish out the paperwork for the train to check the details. I read and reread the info because I can't believe I've been so crass. It doesn't leave around 1:30. It leaves exactly 11:30. 40 minutes time. Shit. We stuff everything into our packs and check out. 2 rucksack-bearing tourists quick marching through the narrow streets of the old city attract a rickshaw driver's attention. En route to his machine, we thrash out a deal, while staying mindful that time is not exactly on our side. The station is very busy. They always are. We have 15 minutes to barge our way to the train, which, according to the indicator board, is on platform 9, the furthest one. A couple from our hotel are on the same train. We run into them on the platform. The train is, predictably, late, but even better, we are informed that it's not actually stopping at Allahabad. Oh, that's just great. So do we jump and roll at the station? No. Worse, it isn't even going to Allahabad Junction, and we don't know where it is going. It may be another station in the city, or another city, or Timbuktu for all we know. We were getting picked up too. However, experience would tell us that even if we had got to the right station, we doubt that anyone would have met us. Some hours later, our train comes to a halt at a halt. I call it a halt as there isn't much to it. No station building that I can see. No name signs either. The couple from Varanasi are getting off too. They tell us that this is the stop that replaces Allahabad. But where the hell are we? We follow the other passengers up the platform. The Indians, they know the score. They know where we are and have made arrangements. They dissipate into the surrounding streets or waiting cars, leaving the tourists standing and wondering what to do next. There are no rickshaws or taxis, no drivers vying for our business, no business card waving hotel touts. There is none of the tedious hassle we have come to expect at rail stations, and right now would welcome. What we do know is rumour from various sources. The mailer is 7 kilometres away, but in which direction? A taxi, if you can find one, should cost no more than 150 rupees. The road to the station appears to be a dead end, so no passing traffic. We fragment into small groups and try to find out where we are and how to get to Allahabad or the Kumbh. Someone manages to call in transport, but only for themselves, as it turned out. Yeah, thanks guys. But the word is out and a few more vehicles roll up. They all ask for ridiculous money, but options are thin on the ground. People are bidding and outbidding each other for the available transport. No need to hike the prices, we're doing it for them. The couple from Varanasi actually managed to bargain down a rickshaw to 750 rupees. But a trio of Italians offer 1,000 and they take it. A short time ago, we were all in the same boat. But now, we are all in our small individual boats and clubbing our former shipmates back into the water should they try to board. In the end, there are just 4 of us left. Myself and Keith, who bargained to the end and were outbid at every juncture. Dirk, a craggy German with a lazy eye, who probably frightened the drivers to be honest. And stranded tourist number 4, who happens to be staying in the same camp as us. The very hippy-dippy Camp Om. Stranded tourist number 4 manages to get a local guy to call his tour organiser and get a car. 20 minutes later, a car turns up and there is no one left to steal it from us. We explain to the driver that we are also staying in Camp Om, but it turns out there are 2 of them, and we are not in the same one. So stranded tourist number 4 abandons us and heads off on his own. And then there were 3. We do what we should have done ages ago. We find a number for the company, collar a stranger and beg to use their phone. We call the company, who give us a number for their rep in the Kumbh, a guy by the name of Roshan Raj. We call Roshan and he tells us to get a cab. The man is a genius. Why didn't we think of that? Get a cab. He says to get a cab, ask the driver to call him, and he will let the driver know where to go. Hopefully we can take Dirk too. To be honest, he does look a bit scary, and he may find it challenging to get a ride on his own, especially if the prospective cabbie has seen The Hills Have Eyes. When the cab turns up, it is driven by a well-dressed and very well-fed man who speaks excellent English. He calls Roshan to find out where we are heading, and only wants 300 rupees. I don't really care at this point. I just want the hell out of this place. We give Dirk a ride too. We can't just leave him here. We bump and swerve through rural Uttar Pradesh on dire roads. We have to swerve around craters, livestock, small children, and a group of Japanese tourists led by a guy holding an iPad out in front of him like a divining rod. They were on the train. They left about an hour ago, hoping to use that to get them to the Kumbh. We reach the Kumbh in about 20 minutes. Our driver drops us at the Sri Someshwara temple, which, according to our sketchy map, is very close to our camp. Kumbh Mela, here we come. We say goodbye to Dirk and head off in search of Camp Om. I will spare you the details of the hellish, long and tedious saga of the search for Camp Om. The map didn't help, and all the people who tried were as good as the map. No one had ever heard of it, let alone knew where it was. After many hours, we end up back at the temple where we were dropped, tired and pissed off. Managing to collar another stranger and beg the use of their phone, we call the company again. Roshan tells us to wait where we are and he will meet us. Roshan is a short, wiry and spivvy-looking bloke with long hair in his early 20s. He walks us a few hundred yards to a compound by the name of Priyag Heritage. We had tried this place already, asking residents the whereabouts of the elusive Camp Om, which they had never heard of. And this is it, is it? Well, yes and no. Yes, this is our camp, but no, this isn't Camp Om, as, apparently, there is no Camp Om. Seriously. No Camp Om. Well, this is something it would have been bloody handy to know beforehand, before spending hours trudging around the place wearing heavy rucksacks looking for it. Why the hell did anyone not pass on this very pertinent nugget of info? Roshan has no explanation. We are mightily pissed off, but too exhausted to argue. The sun is sinking, and we just want our tent and our cup of chai on the veranda. Having completed the torturous registration process, Roshan takes us to another camp along the road. I was actually relieved about this, as there was a distinct lack of grass and Swiss cottage tents in the Prieg Heritage. In Prieg Heritage 2, Roshan hands us over to another company rep, a guy called Shakti. And following Shakti to our accommodation, I get the distinct feeling that this day is not quite done putting the boot in. And I was not wrong. Our Swiss chalet tent set in a lush green lawn is, in reality, a windowless mid-terrace plasterboard cell set in a long row of identical windowless plasterboard cells. The place has all the charm of a row of lockups. The interior is a single room, carpeted with orange tarpaulin. There are 2 beds and a washroom containing a small basin, standpipe, a leaking toilet with a broken seat, and no hot water. I feel the sudden urge to tear off someone's head and use their neck as a toilet. I head straight back to find Rogan Josh, or whatever his name was, but he had gone. I questioned Shakti about the accommodation issue, the cheese we have paid for and the chalk we've been served. He claims the tents were not possible and that we have been emailed about it. Was it the same email informing us about the demise of Camp Om, do you think? What address did you send it to? suckers@youvebeen.had. He also describes the accommodation as a cottage. Cottage? Seriously? I'll tell him to Google cottage and shed and tell me which one is the closest to what we have here. But it is pointless, as he clearly doesn't care. There is no Camp Om, no lawn, no Swiss cottage tent, and no veranda. The only thing they had from our vision was the chai, but it fell a little short of making up for the fact that we've been completely and utterly ripped off, and there is sod all we can do about it. We rechristened the place Stalag Om, and as the evening wore on, other inmates drifted back. One of them, a lady called Mandy, happened to live in Southend, my hometown, and a few hundred metres from where I work. It's a small world, as they say. Also, she was on the same train as us, but almost missed the stop. By the time she found out she should have got off, the train was already leaving. She tells us that she was shoved off the moving train out onto the track, and somehow ended up, pack and all, on the back of a motorbike riding over the sleepers back to the station. The rider then gave her a lift all the way to the Cum. For his trouble, he was told in no uncertain terms, if he gave her any trouble, he would be for it. Despite this, her mystery benefactor dropped her off, asking for nothing in return. And he got it too. After the day we've had, it is nice to round it off with a heartwarming story of a good Samaritan and his selfless act of charity, for which he received threats of retribution, 0 thanks, and was thoroughly berated throughout. Tragical Mystery Tour was written and read by Phil Wingfield.